morning, good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another Geek Tavern. As always, it's me, Shawn, and I'm joined by Mike.
Hello.
And Aaron.
Well, how do you do?
And today we are going to be talking a spoiler discussion about Aaron's recommendation, which was Rian Johnson's 2019 film Knives Out. That hack Rian Johnson.
It's his only,
Right,
it's his only half decent movie.
Brought us one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Looper? He didn't do Rise of Skywalker. Wish he did.
Yeah.
God.
Everybody thinks I'm joking. I legit like The Last Jedi. So.
I like it
No,
all.
I like The Last Jedi.
But that's not why we're here.
Yeah. We're here about a different awful movie directed by Rian Johnson. So Knives Out is a mystery movie that kind of takes the mystery out of it and then reinstills it.
It flips it on its head.
Yeah, this is a very good fit for Rian Johnson because he loves to subvert expectations. And this movie really worked out in his favor. This was my favorite movie of 2019, and we know what movies came out in 2019, Endgame and all that. Like this was definitely my absolute favorite. It revolves around the suicide of famed horror and mystery. Well, he's not really horror, mystery and thriller novel writer Harlan Thrombey, who he's fictitious, played by Christopher Plummer. And his entire family is absolutely shocked and devastated that he committed suicide.
Yeah,
And-
it was on the celebration of his 84th birthday.
Yeah.
So everybody was in town.
Yeah. So everybody
And
was
his mother's
shocked.
still alive.
Yes. One hit him. We'll get to a joke about
I just
that.
thought it was crazy that he was so old and his mother's still alive.
Yeah, that was a very strange thing. But so there's people, like, of course, the police are called and everything. And they think it's all kind of wrapped up, except for Benoit Blanc, played by Daniel Craig, shows up along to assist with the investigation. And that's when it starts to get a little different because he was paid by an anonymous person to investigate his suicide.
Yes.
Implying that it wasn't really a suicide. So yeah, and then the movie kicks off from there. And
Yeah, the movie starts proper with the discovery of Harlan's death, and then it jumps right into testimonies from the family, conducted by the police and Benoit Blanc. And I really like, so before we get jumping right into it, I know how I feel about this movie, you know how I feel about this movie, I know how you feel about this movie. Mike, this is the first time you've seen the movie,
Yeah.
so I would like to know how you thought of the movie.
I don't have a top 10, but this could very well be in there.
Yes.
yeah, it's definitely in mine.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, you guys could have slapped me like 2 years ago and be like, watch this fucking movie.
Watch this movie. It's amazing. No, like Shawn and I went to go see it just like for shits and giggles. We had nothing to do.
Right.
So we went to the movies and watched it. We both were like, holy shit, that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into specifics as we go on. Like, I'll point out whatever my favorite things were or whatever. But I think I thought about it all day because I finished it this morning. And I think my favorite part of the movie is the performance of, I'm going to fuck up her name, Ana de Armas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's Marta.
I'm blown away. Like,
Yeah.
how,
He was really good.
yeah.
Everybody was great in this movie.
And I don't know what made it stand out so much, but even like the whole thing with her throwing up every time she would lie, or like you could tell she's like holding something back a lot of the times, and just her performance of just teary-eyed or whatever the scene calls for. I think she just, I don't know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I don't normally pay attention to that stuff, and I was just drawn into her performance.
Yep. No, she's great in it.
She is I would say it's hard to say who's the main character, but it's pretty much her and Daniel Craig are
I was gonna say Daniel Craig would definitely
the two leads.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's a great character to be able to follow, especially after the twist happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like halfway through, maybe not even halfway through the movie, like the first 30 minutes of the movie is whenever the twist is revealed.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you can really sympathize with her, and you understand where she's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And the first line that Detective Blanc says to her, does being a good person make you a good nurse? You can really tell that this person is a genuinely great person. She cares about all of these shitty people that don't give a fuck about her, and all of this stuff. So yeah, she's a great character to be able to relate to during this whole thing.
Yeah.
What I was going to say before I got your opinion on the movie is the interrogation scenes with all of the family. I really like that because it intersplices it with each interview, and it goes on the same path where it's oh yeah, Richard says that Walt and Harlan got in a fight, and Walt's he said what?
Yeah.
It cuts back in between, and then it all of them have the reaction where they're who is this guy? Why is he even here? And then he explains things, and then jumps in and starts asking questions and starts figuring everything out. And yeah, I've always loved mystery genre things, so this is.
I would say I probably haven't seen enough of these types of movies. I'm sure there's an abundance of them.
Oh, certainly.
But it's definitely a genre I kind of want to dive in a little bit more.
Yeah, the mystery behind it is very, very intriguing, and especially when the twist happens. But then multiple twists happen, and you're whoa, hold on.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how mystery media has to go. You have to have the twists that really is the big breakthrough moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the main character that we are following, we're led to believe 30 minutes into the movie that she's the one responsible for the death of Harlan, albeit a horrible accident. You're oh well, now I have to. You're watching the movie in a different light, because first you're the first 30 minutes you're okay, this is obviously a murder mystery, who killed their dad,
right?
And then 30 minutes in you're oh, how is she we're now watching it how is she gonna get away with this?
Yeah.
It's how the movie flips it on its head. You're on Marta's side, and you want to make sure you want to watch and see how she's gonna outsmart this detective.
Yeah.
And
she does in a few instances.
Yeah, she does a few times.
Yeah, for example, when they're walking the grounds, and they walk up through the pathway, and she sees her own footprints there, and they're not paying attention, so she just walks through, and then Benoit's Marta, no, and he's shit, and at that point she's what?
And then
what?
the dogs come, and she gets the whole trail covered.
Yeah, the dogs come and tear through.
Yeah.
Which plays to her advantage, because they say that they heard the dogs barking for somebody who came up, and the dogs don't bark at Marta or anything like that. They're not even fazed.
Yeah. And whenever she steals the VCR tape and wipes it with the...
That one, ever since the moment they showed that, she messed up on that part and pulled before the whatever that thing was, statue or whatever.
Before the elephant.
Yeah,
yeah,
I couldn't remember
statue.
what it was. Yeah, and they show it on the monitor screen, and you're how the hell did she get out of there?
Yeah,
And
then she hits the eject, and then she's like, oh shit, and then just wipes it.
I thought it was gonna just fry the whole tape.
That's what I thought happened.
Yeah.
Was like just by some random stroke of luck.
I mean, it
ate the
ejects and
tape.
it's like smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
VCR is smoking.
Yeah, I was like thinking of like, oh wow. Like the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, what a stroke of luck! It just ate the tape before.
And the guy even says after.
Yeah, it's like that thing eats tapes like crazy.
Yeah, he was like, luckily she's like, oh, if you don't hold it down, it ejects anyway. So a stroke of luck there. But yeah. And the funny thing is that Detective Blanc knows that Marta had something to do with the death of Harlan the whole time because she had blood spatter.
She had literally like a speck of blood on her shoe.
And I remember it's when she goes home and she sits by her mom and watching TV.
We, the audience,
like it zooms in on it. I'm like, oh shit. Like,
which honestly, you have to be a really, really, really good detective to spot something like that.
I mean, I noticed that this, like, whenever they're first interviewing Marta, whenever she's like listening in on their conversation, and Benoit's like, come outside, he like shakes her hand and he's looking down and spots her shoe like in that scene. So, yeah,
this is a great example of a movie where like any little thing could be something that ties in later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the that's one thing we were talking about, the ceramic elephant or whatever, and he's like go past the ceramic elephant,
pull off the floor, pull up after.
Yeah, then she goes, did he say before or after? And he goes, before the glass elephant, and then he goes, before after the glass. Like, it's his voice.
Before after the elephant.
Yeah, before after the elephant.
Yeah, I like that little touch because like it's her like trying to remember what Harlan told her, and then everybody's memory is fallible, and instances like in high stress situations, which she was certainly.
I remember nothing he told me.
It's a very complex thing that he asked her to do, and I mean, she managed to do it pretty well for the most part.
And so I mean, like, so let's talk about we didn't even talk about what happened.
Yeah,
how this comes about. So, he has to take certain medications because he's old, and he has to take them before bed, and he has to take them regularly. So he has the nurse Marta, and who is also his friend, to administer his medications. And what happens is she gives him the wrong medication, and she ended up giving him 100 milligrams of morphine when it was supposed to be his other medicine. And
I forget what the other one even was.
I forget what it was that he was supposed to get. It was like maybe some kind of blood thinner or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she can't find the Noxalone or whatever it is that counteracts the effects of an overdose of morphine. Yeah, so she knows that he's going to be dead before an ambulance even gets there, and so does he. Mm-hmm. So he comes up with this plan on the spot to get her out of this situation by effectively killing himself, making it look like a suicide, to, rule out them doing a blood toxicology report and finding out exactly how he died or if she had anything to do with it. So Harlan's very smart in this instance where he's like telling her exactly what to do, how to do it, and like he's telling her like you need to step by step, you need to follow exactly.
There's all the examples in all of his books.
Yeah. And he's done plenty of research on it.
Right.
Like like in this universe, he's a very well known writer of mystery. He's like the Stephen King of mystery.
Yeah, basically.
Writers. Yeah. So he kills himself, and then they find him the next day, and of course everything happens. So, like, we find out what happens in the first act of the movie. But then a twist happens later as they're investigating, because when I first saw this, I thought that the whole thing was going to be like, how does she get out of this and everything? Mm-hmm. Then you come to find out there's an even bigger twist that happens. So
I love how Benoit explains it.
So
There's a donut, but then
there's a hole,
in our donut.
in the donut with another hole in it.
Yeah, inside our donut is just it's
Another
not a
donut.
hole, it's just another donut with
Yeah.
a hole inside of itself.
Well, that's the third twist.
Yeah.
So we're introduced to Hugh Drysdale, who they call Ransom, who did not show up to the funeral, left the party in a fit of anger.
Yeah, left the birthday party
Yeah.
after an argument with his grandfather.
Yes. And we come to, I mean, this is spoiler discussion, so we're just,
Yeah.
you come to find out that Ransom ended up switching the medicines and putting his blood thinners in the morphine thing and putting...
He changed the label.
Yeah, he changed the label.
No,
He
injected it?
did, yeah,
Yeah,
he
he
actually
did it?
pulled out with the syringe and injected it into the other.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah, he
that scene.
completely
that
switched them.
So he completely switched them, and
Benoit switches
Yeah.
two examples.
at the very end.
yes, and we find out that he was the one who
Yeah,
switched them.
and he takes the emergency dose
Takes
of
the Noxalone so that
Yeah.
she can't
save him.
save him.
Because his motivation is that Harlan has basically cut every member of his family out of his will and is going to leave everything to Marta.
Yeah.
So he's like, this is ridiculous. I have to do everything on my own, so I'm going to... He knows about the Slayer rule, which is if the person that would inherit all of the what was inherited in his will was even held responsible in civil court for his death, then they wouldn't be able to inherit anything. So he is
accidental
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
on purpose.
Yeah, so his plan was to have her be responsible for his death by that accident. And then, obviously after he found out that she was the one inheriting things, they would go in court and, all that shit. But that was his plan, but it didn't work out because of the twist at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
But that is his motivation, because Harlan was cutting everybody out of his will and basically just like cutting ties with everybody. That's the first half of the movie as well. We learn that he fired Walt from their publishing company. He's telling Richard, he caught him in an affair.
Yeah.
And he's like, you tell my daughter that you're cheating on her or I'm going to. And then Joni, his daughter-in-law, after his son passed away.
Oh, okay. I missed that part.
Yeah, she was taking like extra money from him.
Right.
She was paying for his grandfather or his granddaughter's college tuition.
And she was double dipping because both offices were writing checks to her.
$100,000 a year.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
So she was basically just pocketing $100,000 extra a year.
Yeah.
So the school cost $50,000, and she was double dipping.
No, they were writing duplicate checks. Both of his offices were writing duplicate checks. Yeah.
And one check would be roughly $50,000 then.
No, I think she was getting $200,000 checks. $100,000 a year. For
Either way, that would be
college for
like
the semester.
such an
For
oversight.
2 semesters. Oh yeah,
Like-
that's a gross oversight. But I mean, of course, he can afford it.
Yeah. Like even to let it go for like one semester, let alone like at least multiple years, which was implied.
Yeah, I think it was like the last 4 years.
Four,
is what
yeah.
it said. Yeah. And then he writes her the final check. And he's like, all right, you and Meg are not going to see a cent
Yeah.
from me for the rest of my days.
Which I always have a problem with personally, because it's not Meg's fault that
Right.
her mom's a piece of shit and stealing from her
If he
grandmother.
doesn't know.
Yeah, it's not her fault. So like, why is Harlan
Unless he is
punishing her?
maybe in on it. They don't specifically say.
Well, I think
That's
Harlan
true,
was
but-
trying to nip it in the bud. Like, okay, well, I'm going to teach Joni this lesson so Meg learns this lesson. So, I mean,
Yeah.
does she suffer the consequences? Yes, but at the same time, like, he's not doing it to hurt her. He's
Everybody
doing
in the
it
family
just
needs
to-
to be taught lessons.
Yes,
Yeah,
essentially.
and that's exactly what his point was.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things he said before he died was, I wish I could resolve all of this before I go. And it wasn't really...
Well, kind of.
Kind of, yeah, because at the end, it does get resolved. So then the bigger twist that happens is, so Marta is receiving like emails and like ransom notes and stuff like that, telling her like to be at this place at a specific time, blah 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 blah, and it's all a ruse set up by Ransom. And the reason why he does all of this is because even though he put the medicine in the different vials, Marta ended up giving Harlan
the appropriate
dosage and the correct medicine, just based on feel, because she's done it 100 times.
Right.
So Harlan's death was actually an actual suicide.
Right.
There was nothing wrong with him. That wasn't going to kill him or anything. Which we find out from a held toxicology report that Fran gets and is using it against Ransom because she knows that he...
Yeah, during the funeral, Ransom snuck back into the house to switch the vials back again.
Yes.
So he couldn't be implicated, I guess. And then Fran saw him, and she has a sister in a toxicology lab, so she sent... I don't know how she got a sample of Harlan's blood, but sent it in for a toxicology report. I guess that part doesn't really matter, but...
Or maybe they just did one anyway.
Yeah.
They may have just...
Well, I think it's protocol when anybody dies, they do one.
Especially with a suicide, you probably wonder if they were on something.
I thought Fran's sister or whatever she was,
cousin, I think. Yeah.
Like, I thought she just worked there, so she could get a copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that she actually took the blood in. And...
Yeah. I think that she just got a copy because she suspected that something was up.
Yeah.
And then when she found out,
because she thought that Ransom was like poisoning Harlan, I guess. And she sends a copy of a toxicology report that says that he's all green, basically, because he wasn't, unduly poisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And she wouldn't know that because she's a maid. And she sent it to Ransom, like, I know what you did. And Ransom gets it and is like, this is not the right...
Yeah.
He's like,
so then he sees it and he's like, what the fuck? He's like, how... She was supposed to give him the wrong shit. And then that's when he formulates the plan. Then he burns the whole,
the toxicology lab.
Burns the toxicology lab so there's no evidence that there was anything done. And then tries to kill Fran, which, again, this is a great ending to this movie where they bring Hugh in and Marta, and they're talking about it and everything, and Blanc is going over every detail of this, and he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then Marta gets a phone call from the hospital, and she answers it, and she says, oh, that's great news, thanks, we'll be over. And then hangs up the phone, and she's like, Fran's okay. And,
Hugh's basically like, this is all hearsay, you don't have anything against me. What you have against me is an alleged, murder. Yeah. But Fran's going to be fine. Attempted murder, but you told me that Fran's going to be fine. I have good lawyers, I'll get off scot-free. Which he would also be implicated in the arson thing.
Yeah.
But I think he says that, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he's like, all you have against me is arson and attempted murder, which, I could get off. It'll be fine. And then that's whenever he basically implicates himself, being like, I did try.
Oh, no. Yeah, he says, yeah, I killed Fran, but I guess I didn't. He's like, so what are you going to get me for? Attempted murder along with arson charges. He's like, I'll be out in a month or something like that.
Yeah.
And then she throws up on Hugh because after he says his whole spiel to her, she throws up on him, implying that she lied and Fran is dead. And then he tries to kill Marta, too, with a prop knife.
Yeah.
Which is something that was mentioned by Harlan.
Yeah, there's a bunch of good stuff earlier where it's like only a fool would not recognize the difference between a real knife and a fake knife.
Oh, okay. And I missed that.
It's in the scene where...
and he's actually talking about Ransom when he says that. He says there's so much of me in that kid. He's like stupidity, anger, and he's like talking about it, and he says, you live life by whatever he says. He goes, until you can't even tell the difference between a stage prop and a real knife. And then that's, of course, what happens at the end is he stabs her with a prop knife and doesn't even do anything, so they arrest him for Harlan and
It's a pretty
Fran's
intense
murder.
scene because, like, not picking up on Harlan talking about the fake knives.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, the whole family is very dramatic and theatrical. Like, just having that throne of knives,
Yeah.
like, chair in itself is just very, you know.
Like, damn it. That's a Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones style.
And I mean,
Chair.
it kind of is. Like, they're all liars and cutthroats and
Like, people sit there and then, like, the knives are, like, right on their head. Like, you know.
Yeah. I think everybody is great in the movie. Just like the story itself, I could gush over that for, hours, but the performances as well. It has like a very star-studded cast, and all the performances are great, especially like you said, Anna Darmus and Daniel Craig. But I also really like Lakeith Stanfield, who plays the lieutenant, the black lieutenant.
Okay, yeah.
He's great in the movie too, just because it's funny because we have like the buddy cops in the movie. One's the he's the lieutenant. I forget what the other guy is.
the other guy's a trooper.
Yeah, Trooper Wagner. And
Right.
he's like in love with the Thromby's like novels and things. And
Yeah.
he's like, oh, I'm a big mystery. And even whenever Marta says something about Fran thought that she was poisoning him. And he's like,
It's some movie.
yeah, and he's like he says
He's
the
like,
movie.
yeah, it's this movie. He's like Danica McKellar, like it's like a Hallmark movie or some shit
Yeah.
like that. And he's like, something with Danica McKellar, and
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it's funny seeing the dynamic between all three of them and Detective Blanc, where the lieutenant's like taking his job deadly seriously, and Trooper Wagner's just kind of like all along for the ride, enjoying every bit of it.
He's like
Just because he's a
fangirling
super
out.
fan.
Yeah, he's like, oh, these statues are from this whatever novel.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, that's really cool.
And the elephant statue is like, he's like, he's like, all the animal statues are from something menagerie or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Menagerie of murder or something like that. And
Yeah.
it's like he is just fangirling the whole time.
And then obviously Detective Blanc, who's on an even higher level than them both.
Yeah, because he's had New York Times articles written about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the daughter-in-law of the guy that passed away, she's the first one that says, "Oh, I've read about you."
He's like, you're I know you.
Yeah. I read
I saw a tweet
about an article
Oh, yeah.
about you.
Yeah, I read a tweet about your New York
Yeah, she
Times
was a
article.
tweet, and then
And then Linda.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
And then Linda knows exactly who.
Yeah,
he is.
that's
She's
right.
like, no, I read your whole spiel in New
Yeah.
York Times. She's like, I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, that scene's so funny because Jamie's like, I think I know you, and then Richard's like, who the fuck is this guy? And Linda
fuck is
knows
that?
exactly who he is. He's like, Detective Blanc, I know exactly who you are. It's like, do you think there's... And the big mystery that...
she said something like, it's insulting that
Yeah.
you're here or something like that.
Yeah, ultimately, the big mystery for Benoit Blanc that is levied at the very first act is he has no idea who hired him.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
He's like, at the beginning of the day, somebody dodged a very important question. It was me, because I have no idea who hired me or why I'm here. And then ultimately we find out that it was Ransom who hired him to discover, because it was ruled as a suicide.
Right.
And he's like, well, that's not right. It was, bad.
Yeah.
It was an unfortunate accident that caused Harlan's death. So he paid Benoit Blanc a lot of money, and then it
An
ended up,
envelope.
Yeah.
Of cash.
it ended up biting him in the ass because it actually wasn't. It was an actual suicide.
Right.
Came back on him.
Yeah.
He got his comeuppance.
So
He's a good villain in this movie.
yeah,
Chris
Yeah, it
Evans.
is.
I didn't really look at the cast. I just knew it was stacked. I don't know why I didn't recognize him offhand, but Don Johnson.
Yeah. Plays
Like,
Richard, yeah. And you
But
know who
damn.
else? We glossed right over this part.
Yeah.
So I looked at the cast while we were at the movie watching it, And I said to Shawn, I was like, Frank Oz is in this movie.
Mhm.
I was like, who does he play? So we're like watching this and they keep showing Great Nana Thrombey. And I was like, is Frank Oz playing Harlan's mom? Like, cause like she has all of this like big hat, like big coat and everything. And I'm like, that could easily be him.
Yeah.
And then you find out that he's the lawyer.
Yeah, he's the the person that reads the will, the last will and testament.
Oh, this will be very quick, actually. Not too complicated at all.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the.
Wait, what about our house? This is still our house, isn't it? Oh, sorry. And I leave the house and all its belongings therein to Marta Cabrera.
Just everything.
Yeah, that. Oh, and then I like the bit at the end where Ransom is like saying about. He's like, this is our ancestral home, and like Benoit Blanc starts laughing, and he's like, Harlan bought this place in the '80s from a Pakistani billionaire.
Yeah, he just like screams at him, "Will you shut your foghorn leghorn mouth?" Which I gotta love the accent that Daniel Craig went with.
Every time he starts talking, I'm like,
and he
I
has
love
some
it.
really strange dialogue that's just like great. Like we mentioned it earlier, like the whole donut hole within a donut hole, and
that
then
whole like explanation was hilarious.
he has very flowery language where he's like whenever Marta meets him, like he's smoking a cigar out at the wake. He's like, oh, you know, I follow each mystery to its inevitable conclusion.
Mhm.
Like basically, like I stride the path that'll like of truths that lead me to the conclusion, which he's very clearly skilled investigator.
But there's another donut within our donut.
And he like whenever they're talking about when Marta is vomits whenever she lies, it's like, I heard you have a regurgitative reaction to untruthing.
Untruth.
You know, like he just has such weird dialogue.
Yeah.
But he's just like chewing the scenery in every single scene that he's in. He's just, you can tell that he's having a great time doing it.
Which is why he's doing another one.
Mm-hmm. He probably was like tired of playing James Bond. And
I
was
would
like,
imagine.
I'm gonna fucking play this guy.
Well, yeah, because he doesn't like. Yeah, I mean, which is funny. This is the second Daniel Craig movie that I didn't do that intentionally.
Yeah.
But it's the second Daniel Craig movie. But let's look at Casino Royale and like all the physicality that he has to do. Like,
Oh, it's a whole different thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, he's up there in age, so I mean, of course, he wants to go to more movies like this.
This is a more how do I want to say it? More of an actor's actor role.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
more of a dramatic.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Craig is great as James Bond. I'm not going to say that he isn't, but James Bond isn't.
He's an action hero.
Yeah, James Bond isn't exactly a weighty character, and the more recent films have kind of changed that. Like they've given him more of like a past and whatever. But like,
but James Bond.
Yeah, James Bond is typically a one-note character.
Yeah.
When this is clearly
This is what I
very
do.
fleshed out.
Yeah.
You know, three-dimensional character with, and I'm very happy that they are making 2 more films. I don't know if you saw the trailer for the new one that's coming
I think I did actually
out,
watch
Glass Onion. It looks pretty good.
And like, if each one of these movies is gonna be stacked with a cast like they do, like this next one has Edward Norton,
Ethan Hawke,
Batista. Batista. Gal Gadot is in Death on the Nile, which is I was also thinking of that because I'm like, it's easy to like mesh the two because you have Benoit Blanc and then you have Kenneth Branagh playing, I forget that detective name. But that's a series of books that you know you had.
That's an Agatha Christie.
Murder on the Orient Express and Death on the Nile. But yeah, with Glass Onion, I think that's gonna be a good one too.
Yeah, it's a shame that they pushed it back because it was supposed to come out in November, I think.
Did they push it back?
Yeah, it's coming out in December now. But
oh, well, that's fine.
It's still it's
still
not a major pushback. It's coming out at the end of this year, but you know,
it's still coming direct to Netflix too, which is awesome. Is it doing a limited?
It's having a limited theatrical release like a week before it comes out on Netflix. So
I hope we get it here.
probably just so that it can be in contention for like awards seasons. Even though I don't think that this one performed very well at the awards or was even nominated for anything.
No,
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think it
You
was.
think it would at least have been nominated for best original screenplay?
Yeah,
because
I
it's
mean,
very,
it was, yeah.
it's a very tightly written movie. Like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of like fat that can be cut off of this.
No, and everybody like complains about Ryan Johnson and like what he did with Star Wars, but like this is his like masterpiece. I mean, this is the way that he writes and directs. This is perfect. I mean, this was written and directed by him.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is his brainchild, and it's perfect. Very, very tightly written. It's great. It's fantastic.
What the hell did Gabriel Iglesias do?
I think it was his voice on something that like Marta's family was watching or something.
Oh,
You know, like on the
Oh.
TV or something.
Yeah.
Because like I thought about it and I was like, oh, I think that they were watching something with him
Yeah.
on it.
Okay.
So yeah, he's credited.
I was like, I don't remember seeing him.
Yeah, I saw him and I was like, what the fuck was he in there for?
Yeah.
But
I brought it up to you when watching it. It's funny that I think that we are given like where Marta is from. She's from an illegal immigrant. She's illegally immigrated to the States.
She's not, only her mom.
Well, yeah, which is why like that's where the urgency from her end comes from, because she can't like basically the family's threatening like if you don't give us the money back, we're gonna have your mother deported. But
which we never get a definitive like that's gonna be okay kind of thing.
yeah, I think that because
I mean, it's implied because she'll have great.
she'll have the resources and everything.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is I'm pretty sure that we learned that her family's from Ecuador. That's what Linda says. I think that
and Linda is the one who would actually.
Yeah, she doesn't look it, but she actually like kind of gives a fuck.
Yeah.
Everybody else doesn't actually care, but like they like say that she's from like 3 different or 4 different countries whenever they're talking about it.
Because Richard's like, she's from Paraguay.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And then
Ransom's like, you're Brazilian
yeah,
nurse?
you're Brazilian nurse.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Like none of them actually know where she's from. She's just like a Latin American person that takes care of their grandfather. They're all lying. They're like, oh, she's like family, and like they're all just horrible to her, which is another reason why Detective Blanc stands up for her.
Yeah.
Because she tells him everything, and she's like, I'm gonna give everything away, and he's like, okay. And then they find the toxicology report, and he's like, no, you guys are horrible to her. I'm in my professional opinion, I'm going to have this ruled as a suicide.
Yeah, and then he.
That's right. As he was reading the toxicology.
Yeah, he was reading it in the background while she was like telling everybody that he's like, excuse me, and like walks up and he's like, don't say a word. Like, it's like, shut the fuck up right now. Don't say anything.
He's like, what are you doing?
Otherwise, this is gonna get all fucked up.
But yeah, it came together nicely. It was also my favorite movie of the year that came out in 2019. So
I remember everybody talking about it.
It was a hell of a movie.
I just never.
I'm
Shut
glad
up.
to have seen it in theaters.
Yeah.
yeah, I almost didn't see it in theaters. Like Aaron said, whenever it came out, we just kind of went on a whim. We're like, yeah, we don't have anything to do, and we showed up late too.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
We showed up like right as it was starting.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we're like, well, let's go watch something, and we're like, oh, okay.
See, Knives Out.
We left, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah, hell of a movie. Hell of a movie. It's nice when you go to see a movie like that where you're not expecting anything out of it,
Yeah.
and then you come out of it and you're like, wow, that's one of my favorite movies now. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That it has that kind of effect.
And it was still like phenomenal, even though I knew it. Like my expectations were high because I know how everybody feels about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like how people have talked it up over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it still wowed me even with the high expectation.
3 years next month.
It came out in November.
Thanksgiving. Yeah. And then the most disappointing Star Wars movie came out after that.
Yeah, same here.
2019 was a great year for movies, though.
It
For the
didn't
most
end
part.
great.
It did not end. And then we went straight into a pandemic. So it was
Yeah.
like, wow, Star Wars sucked. How could it get any worse? And then it was like ready for a pandemic.
That's why it happened. They were
Yeah.
like, we need something worse has to happen.
Oh, you guys made a terrible Star Wars movie. I'm putting a plague on humanity.
Right. This is your repay.
But then our
Yeah.
first podcast episode came out in
That's right.
January of 2020.
That's right.
That's true.
We did our top 10. And
I didn't realize that
retrospective.
coincided with that.
yeah, and the retrospective of the last decade.
We had like 3 or 4 episodes come out before everything really
Okay,
hit the
yeah.
fan. So
I couldn't remember. Yeah.
I remember it was Sonic the Hedgehog was the movie that I think we
Well, that was like
we
the
were like,
first
hey.
movie that came out that we were like, oh, we could actually talk about a new movie.
yeah, and then we were like, oh, so things are getting a little hairy.
And then
Because it
shit
came out,
went
like, in-
downhill.
Yeah, it came like Sonic came out in like March,
Yeah.
and we saw that, and then we're like, and then by the time we recorded, we're like,
Oh, right. Yeah,
things
the
are weird
pandemic
now.
didn't actually hit until March.
Yeah.
until
until
after
mid-March.
Sonic came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then when we recorded it, we're like, yeah, things are kind of dicey right now.
Yeah. That's why we do the format we do.
And then Godzilla vs Kong and No Time to Die got pushed way back for an entire year.
And then they still didn't come out. Well, No Time to Die came out in theaters, but Kong didn't, did it?
No,
It came out
Did
in
it?
theaters. It just
Actually-
released at the same time as HBO Max.
Oh, right. Right.
But Godzilla vs Kong, because it was April 2021.
Mhm.
When that came out, that was I still will argue it, and it's not because I'm biased. That movie did help
Oh, yeah.
put people
Yeah.
back into
It was
movies.
a
That was the one
Yeah.
that was like trickling back into the theaters. They're like, we're going to test the waters.
Right.
Because Tenet came out and it fucking bombed.
Yeah.
It did.
And then people
I like that movie, though.
Yeah, I
but
liked
people
it.
went nuts to go see Godzilla vs Kong in
Yeah.
the theater because that was obviously where it was meant to be. So
And then I went nuts to see Mortal Kombat in the theater.
I watched it on HBO Max. In fact, I woke up on a Sunday, was still in bed with my blanket on me, and I was like, "I'll watch this," and I just like watched it.
Yeah.
I like that movie. Anyway.
It's not a bad movie.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Rating time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to say about it, or
Go
Not
watch
really.
it. Yeah, highly recommend. The music is okay. I don't. It didn't really stand out to me.
I was
I'm
gonna say, I don't
thinking about
remember
it.
any.
So
no? The score of the movie.
I remember it being like serviceable, but
Mhm.
yeah, I don't.
It was just kind of background. It was you really didn't even need any
Yeah,
music,
most-
really.
I'm sure it would feel weird if the music wasn't there. I don't remember it, but
I don't remember any of the music,
Yeah.
and I usually can like remember like certain things. I remember the beginning and the end has like a musical motif that
Yeah.
plays. That's it. I don't remember any music.
Actually, no. I remember the opera thing that the old nanny was listening to.
Oh yeah.
Oh
and
yeah,
Benoit was sitting in there with him.
yeah.
Her.
Great Nana. How old? Harlan's mother? Yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah. How old is she? We don't know. I laugh at that every time. I'm like, isn't that your grandma? Like, you don't know how old your grandma is?
You're celebrating your grandpa's
84th birthday.
Yeah.
So she must be like 110 or something like that.
I mean, she could have had him pretty young, so
Ransom.
she's got to at least be 100.
Yeah, she has to be at least like 90, like 98 or something.
Yeah.
Like, she has to be.
Just be pushing 100.
Yeah,
Yeah, which happens. That
it does happen.
Nana, do you want to eat now? Nana,
Yeah,
would you like to eat?
Yeah,
and then
well-
Linda's like, well, shut up. She already ate the whole salmon platter.
It's like screaming in her face.
You want to eat now, Nana? Eat food. Michael Shannon's great in this movie.
Oh, he's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite parts of the movie. But I'm
Yeah.
also just biased because I really like Michael Shannon.
No, Michael Shannon's a great actor. If you haven't watched Waco, you should watch Waco because he's really good in that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Let's go ahead and rate.
10 out of 10. I was grappling with myself. I say that every time, but I was grappling with myself, and I
Your first 10.
No, it is not my
No?
first 10. The
I
Thing
don't
was my first 10.
Okay.
But this...
I'm a second.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
10 out of 10.
So,
10 out of 10. Perfect.
I mean, I haven't watched it. Obviously, this is my first time. I mean, I'm going to rate it high. I'm going to go 9 out of 10. But I'm sure it could build up to...
it benefits from a second viewing because, like...
You'll pick up on more things.
Yeah, the first time, you're kind of just like... You have, like, an analysis brain, and whenever,
You're
like...
following the thread.
Yeah, whenever whenever they are explaining everything, you're, like, trying to, like, really, like, stick and pin down.
Yeah.
But once you have, like, a greater... like understanding of like the events that happen in the movie, it's easier to like appreciate the movie for what it is. But yeah, I think it benefits greatly from multiple viewings. So
He's very good.
he's very good.
He's very good. Well, there's gonna be a time where all three of us are gonna hit 10 out of 10, and we're just gonna have to be like ding ding ding, like and have like a 10 out of 10, like with arrows pointing to it being like perfect movie.
Yeah.
Well, we've gotten close.
Gotten very close. This is 2 now that we've gotten that are damn near perfect.
Yeah. I just feel like I just wasn't there yet. I gotta watch it more time.
I know it's hard for sometimes to put yourself in. It's like to give a movie that type of rating, but sometimes you can know that it's like not like categorically a perfect movie because I don't think anything like that exists.
No, that's.
I mean,
that's objective.
The closest thing is Back to the Future in my eyes.
Well, that's true. Yeah. But
I've never found a better example. I know it's objective, but
but even you have to. I'm surprised. Anyway, that is Aaron's recommendation.
That was.
And we have another recommendation coming from me this time. I told you guys that I'm going to be doing something a little bit differently this time. I'm going to recommend a mini series.
Okay.
So because it is the beginning of fall, I believe this is going to air in October, the beginning of October. So It's the beginning of fall. It's fall time. I'm going to recommend a animated series, a cartoon that you can find on HBO Max. It's a Cartoon Network show called Over the Garden Wall. It's 10 episodes of 11 minutes apiece.
Okay.
So, it's easily consumable. It's about the length of a regular movie. But yeah, so I am going to be recommending the animated series Over the Garden Wall.
I can't wait to come back and be like, I accidentally watched Smiling Friends again.
I almost recommended the whole of Smiling Friends at one point, just because, I want to say that we're not limited to movies as a medium.
I mean, that's true. I've never thought outside the box of movies, though, personally. But
all right, well, then I'll just recommend Waco next time. I can spend about 8 hours talking about it.
That's a little different, I think. I'm recommending an easily consumable.
All right, that's it. We're watching Lost. All 10 seasons.
We're a Lost podcast now.
Right, so was it 7 seasons?
I thought it was 8.
I think it's
8 seasons.
Oh, it's it. I thought
we're watching all 8 seasons.
I thought it was 10.
Who knows? I certainly don't. Because
I don't, because I've never watched it.
Wouldn't that just be a great gimmick, like to be the Lost podcast? And everybody's like, why? Why did you guys just discover this? Like,
I bet you $100 it already exists.
Probably. And it's like, today we're talking about Hurley's lottery numbers and what they mean.
Well, they're certainly, it has
mostly they're all retrospective.
They're going to be like experts on Lost. Like, that there are people that have watched Lost like 4 times, 5 times. And that's like, those are the people that are like, have that podcast. They're experts.
There's a group of people.
We can talk about it like we're just watching it and like acting like
it would be for me.
Acting like it's still coming out like every Wednesday.
Oh
be like, what will happen next week?
Yeah, we're back to 2010, 2009, 2010.
That has to exist already.
No, it has to. Everything exists somewhere.
I don't listen regularly, but I follow a Batman 66 podcast, and they go episode by episode. I mean, you can just find anything. Really.
Yeah, for sure.
which is fine.
Well, guys, if you don't want to be spoiled for Over the Garden Wall before next episode, make sure to watch it, because we will be having a spoiler discussion of the entire series. Again, only 10 episodes. But I hope you guys enjoyed our conversation about Knives Out, one of my favorite movies. I know I enjoyed having it. I don't care if they enjoyed having it or not. Make sure to like and subscribe and share all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Have a good one. Goodbye.
I'm gonna go watch it again.